You know, it's pretty funny that we spend a lot of time, years, searching for the best guitar or the best mandolin for the best tone. And sometimes those instruments get really expensive. And then we get on stage and we want to mic it up with the best microphone, only to sadly discover that we have feedback. And it could be the room that we're playing in, or it could be that we've got really big speakers that are playing to the audience, and the sound engineer tries their best, but they just can't bring up the volume on our instruments without getting feedback. Well, my band and I had this problem at a festival this year. Not all of us had pickups in our instruments, and so we were all acoustic with microphones, and they just couldn't bring us up loud enough for the audience to hear us very well. Now, if you're like me, you kind of resist wanting to put a pickup in your instrument, but along came the ToneDexter, and I've tried a couple other things, and I've got a K&K pure mini pickup in my guitar, and I decided to give the ToneDexter II a shot. And what you're going to see is I went ahead and retrained it using a microphone plugged into the ToneDexter. It's a nice KM84 style microphone that I built. And I created a WaveMap. And it sounded mostly okay. But what I want to show you is a trick that I learned to deal with the fact that the ToneDexter only has a 4-band EQ. So stay tuned. We're going to get our hands dirty, and I'm going to show you using Logic Pro. And you can use any DAW for that matter, but the principle will be the same. But get ready to dive in deep, because that's what I'm going to show you, how to get great sound out of the ToneDexter and a pickup in your acoustic instrument. Now that we've made the first ToneDexter WaveMap, it's time to record the ToneDexter and a real microphone directly into Logic Pro. And that's what I've done here. Now, what I'm going to do is highlight both of these tracks and do Control-Option-G. And I'm going to change this, whoops, let's bring this so you can see it. So I'm going to change this to be individual regions, and let's go -6 dB and hit apply. And what that does is makes it so that these are both the same volume, so as we compare them, they'll sound similar. I'm going to turn the cycle on, and let's hear how these sounds. I'll bounce back and forth between the two. All right, so that's quite a big difference. You can hear that the ToneDexter is kind of dull and bassy and boomy, and the real microphone is nice and bright. So the next step, we are going to add a plugin to the ToneDexter track, and Logic Pro comes with a plugin called Match EQ, and the ToneDexter is the EQ that we want to apply this to, so that's why I put the plugin on that track. So the first step, let's go ahead and solo this so we can hear what's going on. I'm going to enable learning, and I'll play this, and then I'll turn off learning once we have a pretty good idea of how this EQ curve looks. Okay, so that's pretty good. Now I'm going to enable the side chain to be the real microphone, and we'll switch over here to reference. You don't have to solo this, it will do the same thing now that you did the side chain, but I'm doing that so we can hear it as we go along. So let's hear that and build the EQ curve for that reference track. Okay, so wow, look at all the bass over here. Now if I hit match, this just built an EQ curve that will match, that will make the ToneDexter track match the sound or the timbre, or the general idea of what the microphone is doing. And you notice there's a lot of we're cutting a lot of the bass, adding a lot of highs, and some things in between. If we drag this smoothing all the way to the left, you can see like that's all the changes. So let's just listen to how this sounds with some matching EQ applied. So that's a lot closer to what we want, what I want my guitar to sound like. Now, the ToneDexter is only a 4-band EQ. It's got a low cut filter, which they call a high pass, which is the same thing. It's got low, mid, and high. And if we try to do all of this in the ToneDexter, all of this EQ curve, it's not really going to work. So the trick is that we want to do this in a few different steps. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this smoothing, and we are going to get a general idea of what we might want to do. So that looks about right. Now you're going to see I'm going to kind of save changing the high end towards the very end of when I do adjustments in the ToneDexter, because I don't like stacking a lot of high end, because then it ends up sounding not so good in the end. Okay, back at the ToneDexter, the first thing I'm going to do is press this button, and I am going to make a copy of our initial WaveMap into number 6 so that I won't affect anything, or at least that I can always come back to the original and make changes if I want. So now we're going to go and do some adjustment, and for this we're going to press this high button. I'm going to press this button, or you can rotate it, it does the same thing. But I am going to go down to, we had that bump between 1K and 2K. Oh, actually, I don't think you can do that. Yep. So this only lets you go down to 3K. So we're actually not going to do anything with that yet. Let's actually, you can use this here to, let's go to the mid. It's the same thing as if I press this. So on the mid, we have a bump between, here we go. We'll do that with here. We have a 1.5, somewhere between 1.5 and 2K, or no, between 1 and 2K. And we wanted to bring that up about 4 dB. Now you can change the width of that, and I'm just going to change it to kind of visually match what we were seeing on the computer. So that looks about right. Now that's the only mid EQ adjustment that we can make. So now let's change the low, and I'm going to change this to be, kind of a, I don't know what you call those. Instead of a shelf, it'll be a low. And we had, let's see, at 200. So let's switch the frequency to 200. And then we're going to do a negative gain of about 5 dB. And let's adjust the width as well, so that it kind of matches what we were seeing. That's good. And the high pass filter, let's just bring that up right now to about 100 Hertz, kind of to match what we were seeing. And again, we're going to leave
We're going to leave the high pass filter off, or let's see, let's switch over here. I guess we could change this to a shelf and move this. We'll be doing this later, but I'm just going to show you. It'd be nice if you could really go quickly on this knob. But we can bump this gain up over here a little bit. If you press this, it'll reset. Press and hold, it goes back to 0. But right now, these are the only adjustments I'm going to make on this one. So we've got the low cut filter, the high pass. We've got that dip in the 200. In fact, let's adjust that. That looks like it might be a little too narrow. Let's do it about like that. So we've got these adjustments, and we can see them right here. And so now what I'm going to do is click this WaveMap button. I'm going to save that first, and then I'm going to hit Manage and press this button over here, and what it's going to do is it's going to bake the WaveMap and save it into slot number 7. So now we have another EQ that's completely flat again, but it's based on what we did in number 6. And so now we can make some of those other adjustments. So in the mid, we had another dip at 500 Hertz. So let's change this to 500, and it was about a 4. And we'll change this around, let's say about that. So let's go ahead and save that to the baseline. So remember, 7 is now all the changes that we did in 6 plus 7. Let's record that in Logic Pro and see how that sounds. Okay, here we are back in Logic Pro, and what I'm going to do is use this duplicate button. And I'm going to go ahead and just mute that first track. We don't need that one anymore. And turn off the cycle. Move my playhead to right here. And now I'm going to enable this to record and this to record. And I'm going to record what we currently have in the ToneDexter and against the real microphone again. Okay, I just recorded the guitar from the ToneDexter and the real microphone. And again, I'm going to use Control-Option-G, and we're going to adjust both of these tracks. We're going to normalize the gain on both of those so they have about the same volume. And now we are going to do the same thing. This time though, I'm going to use a different plugin, one that I like better. It's the FabFilter Pro-Q. And we're going to do the same trick, but before we do that, actually, let's close this. Let's set up our cycle. I'll just drag so we can. That's about right. So let's just hear the difference between these two. Okay, so it still doesn't sound exactly right, and some of that's because we haven't put in, we haven't given much high end, we haven't boosted the high end yet, but it's a little less boomy, if you notice that. Anyway, let's go back to the Pro-Q, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to set this up with the side chain. Let's bring this into view so you can see that. Side chain of the real microphone, and then let's see, what do we do here? So let's do the EQ match. We'll set this to the side chain. And the nice thing about this is it does it all in one shot. Okay, I let it play through there a few times so that I could get, it can learn a little more. So now if I hit match, you can see how many points. 0. If we bring it all the way to the top, we can hear what that sounds like. If we could just translate all of this and throw that back into the ToneDexter, that would be perfect. But we can't. So let's adjust this down a little bit, and let's go like that. I'll hit finish. Now this is a little bit crazy, and I'm kind of ignoring these little peaks that are really skinny. I'm treating them as anomalies, but see how this plugin makes it nice where I can actually hover over each one. In fact, if I So some of these actually sound like resonant peaks, but that's interesting. This 200 Hertz is something that we dipped before, and now it's asking us to bump it up by almost 5 dB. But let's just take a guess of what might need to go on. We still need to drop a bunch of lows out, so we'll do that again. Let's just play around with this, and we'll go to about 210 and bump that up. And let's go ahead and we'll boost our highs this time. So I'm just going to take this information and go back to the ToneDexter, and we'll make some adjustments there again and then come back to Logic in a few minutes. All right, back at the ToneDexter, the first thing we're going to do is do the WaveMap. We are going to bake that other WaveMap so that we start with a fresh, flat EQ that we can deal with. And now the lows, we are going to, let's throw another high pass filter on here again. This time we're going to go maybe up to, let's go 130. We'll just try that. And we're still on the low. Remember I said 210. We're going to boost that. What was that at? So I'm going to look really quick. So it's almost 5 dB of gain. Just a little bump there. And oh, we want it like this. So let's move this to 210. Let's just do 4. We'll get the width back down to what it was doing, what it was showing us in the Pro-Q plugin. So about like that. And then let's go ahead and change the high end. And I know that it wanted us to have a lot. And it looks to me like it's maybe Let's do something at 10K. So let's change that. Oh, it's already there at 10K. So let's boost it up. I don't really like going a ton, but let's try it like this. And I'm just glancing over at the Logic plugin just to get a general idea. So yeah, it looks something about like that. That's a pretty big boost, but that should give us some high end back. Those other little adjustments in the middle seem like they might be resonant frequencies, but let's give this a shot and record and hear what that sounds like in Logic. And that's probably good. So let's hear how these sound. So I actually think that we lost too much low end and there's too much sizzle. So I'm going to go back to, well, just for illustration purposes, let's just look at it. We'll bring up the Pro-Q plugin. We'll set the side chain to the real microphone again. And we'll go to the EQ match, set this to the side chain, and hit. Okay, so that's interesting. There's, about, what, maybe 100 hertz or so. Yeah, just as I thought, it's saying that we ought to bump a little bit of low end and let's just bring it like that. So if we're going to take some educated guesses, to me it sounded a little bit gross. There was too much high end. We're getting some zinginess. We could boost the low end just a little bit. What I'm going to do is just, instead of baking the WaveMap that we currently have, I'm going to back off on the high end and on the low end, and I'll just re-record without baking a new one. So let's adjust this. We will, let's say for now, let's drop this low pass filter maybe down to 50 or so. And let's actually come to this low and maybe there. We're just kind of eyeballing this. Let's change that just a little bit so it's a little wider. And then on the high EQ, let's not do something like that. So let's bring it down to maybe a 4 dB boost. So let's give that a shot and I'll record that in Logic. Okay, back in Logic. Let's normalize the gain on these and we'll move our cycle over. That's probably about good. And let's listen to how this one sounds. Turn off the plugin so we're not applying any EQ. Well, we're definitely getting the boominess back that I didn't want to have. So we'll have to make some more adjustments. Let's just take a look at what our EQ looks like. And I'm just showing you this. Let's go back to the match EQ and see if we can give that one a shot again. We'll set our side chain to the real microphone and now we'll listen to the reference mic. And this strangely looks similar to how we started off in the first place, doesn't it? If you notice, the sound is really a lot closer with this EQ curve applied. And so, you know, what can we glean from this? There's maybe a little bit of a, you know, there's a few dips in here, but generally we've got too much low coming in through still, and we need to boost the high. So let's go back to ToneDexter and kind of leave the mid section alone. We might do a dip between 100 and 200 hertz, but let's boost some highs now and take out some lows and just see what that gives us. Back on the ToneDexter, let's go ahead and save this off, and we are going to bake that WaveMap so we can start fresh with a flat EQ and kind of do what we learned in Logic. So the low, it says we still need to take some out, and we'll just go about right there. And then this one looked like we had a dip between 100 and 200. So let's change this to maybe 150, and that was probably like a 5 dB dip. We'll bring this yeah, that looks about right. Now let's move over to the high. Let's just boost this up. Let's not be so drastic, and let's see. So maybe starting about 5K. We'll just we'll give a little bit of a boost there. 5 dB is going to be pretty good. So let's hear how that sounds back in Logic. So there are some differences, but I think we're getting closer. Let's pull in the Pro-Q plugin, set our side chain to the real microphone. But basically, you're getting the idea of what I do to make this sound good. And let's listen to these. So this is interesting. Obviously we could take all of those and it would sound like this. Super close. The ToneDexter doesn't let us do all that all at once. So let's just take a look at this. So still we ought to drop a bunch of lows. That's a significant drop. Maybe about 330 hertz we need to boost a bunch. And then we still need a lot of high end. These ones right here I'm just going to kind of ignore. Let's solo this and hear how that sounds. So, okay, I think we can make some, if we go make this big cut here and a boost here, I don't know if I'll go up to 6.5 dB, but maybe let's bring it up 5 at about 330, and we'll add some more high end again, and hopefully that'll be about it. Okay, so you know the drill by now. We're going to come in here, hit save. We're going to bake that WaveMap to a new slot. And now let's come into the lows, and what was that sitting at? Just taking a peek here. So at about 25, so switch this to here. Let's go to about 30. We're going to bring this down quite a bit. Let's change the width on that. Be about like that. Okay, so there's our low. And now for the mid, we said we had a boost at about 330. So 350, and that was a boost of almost 6 dB. But let's go 5. And it maybe looked about like that. And for our high EQ, we're going to go to the very end here. This lets us go up to 15. And we're going to boost that up. Let's go 6, and let's not make the width that much. Let's give that a shot. Okay, one thing that I wanted to point out is that when you record and you've got the mic, make sure that you're in the exact same placement, playing consistently loud. This time around, maybe I didn't do the best job, but let's normalize this again. And let's just hear how that sounds. Okay, to me, I think that's sounding a lot closer. There's still a little bit of boominess that we need to take out, and but let's compare with where we started. So if let's shrink this up a little bit, and we'll mute that real mic. So this is where we started. I've got all of these matching EQs turned on, so let's turn all of those off. And now let's hear how that sounds. This is where we started from, compared with the real mic here. And then we move to this. Okay, so definitely a big improvement, and I'm not going to keep going, but you get the idea. I'm going to actually load up one of my other projects where I actually have the sound of my guitar. I did this about 10 times with that, and I'll show you what I ended up with. Well, hopefully you could hear that there's a drastic difference from where we started to where we ended up. And if you do this, hopefully you don't have to go through 10 different iterations, but using software, you can change the 4-band EQ that comes with the ToneDexter into more of a surgical EQ just by going through different steps and baking those wave maps and doing the EQ over and over until you end up with something that you want. I'm really excited to use this in a live context. And one thing to keep in mind as you're doing this, you want to shape your tone so that it fits well in the mix of your band. So in my example, there's always going to be an upright bass playing, so I can cut more of the low end out because the upright bass is going to be providing that. Now, if you get on the scene and you need to do that, you can always use the ToneDexter high pass filter and cut some of that low end out. And you know, one of the things that I'm really excited about is that I no longer have to deal with feedback from a microphone. So if you found this helpful, or if you've got other tips or tricks that you want to share about the ToneDexter or that I missed, I would love to hear them. So make sure to leave a comment, share this with people who have the ToneDexter, and keep on picking.